Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw. I'm here with John Lovell, who's president of Travel Leaders Group. And we're here in a podcast situation, just so you can hear it, and you probably see a photo of John there. But we wanted to talk a little bit with John about what's going on both with his group and also the rest of the industry as we come back from this horrible pandemic, and then we face other challenges that seem to be coming at us every day. And I think you'll find it's a pretty optimistic message, but we're going to talk with John about that and a whole lot more on Insider Travel Report. John, first of all, we're here at your Travel Leaders Network conference, which is your huge, largest travel agency group, all owned by, of course, Internova Travel Group. Let's talk about what's going on today. Are we coming back? Are we returning from the abyss as they were? We were just here with you almost literally 8 months ago in Orlando, and here we are in Denver for this Travel Leaders Network. What have you seen in terms of improvement for the overall travel business and also for your members?
Yeah, it's a great question, James. And, 8 months ago, I think we were all rather cautiously optimistic that, we'd start seeing ships back in the water, a real, kind of resurgence in travel. And it played right out. The cruise lines, for instance, they started first quarter, we had about 35% of the industry in the water. Great. Second quarter, we're, close to 60%. And in the next 2 months, we'll be almost at 100% back in the water. You look at, back in October of last year at the conference, we were all talking about the growth in Mexico, the Caribbean market, and the theme parks and resorts in the U.S. And, sales were exploding. People wanted to travel. That was the indicator when we saw Mexico, the Caribbean, and those types of destinations, the Universals, the Disneys, sales off the charts. We were all optimistic. We could see that people really wanted to get out. Now, over the last few days, we've had a lot of shoes fall. And when I say shoes fall, in a positive way, some of the barriers that, were really impeding growth in Europe and seeing the resurgence.
Well, you're talking, of course, about the COVID testing.
Correct.
The inbound COVID testing, which I actually think I took the last test myself coming back from Australia, but it's such a relief. And talk about the impact of that.
I think it's going to be a tremendous impact. You look at River Cruise, Deepwater, all those products, I think, are going to see a nice resurgence in bookings and people traveling. Not in the long term. I think in the short term, people have just been holding off to find out, if that the testing requirement was going to be lifted. Thankfully, it was. Now you have cruise lines actually saying if you're 17 or younger, you don't even need to be vaccinated.
That's great. Yeah, no, it's absolutely. We just had a couple that said you don't even need a test or anything like that to get on board, which is really a relief. But obviously that COVID testing requirement was something. The only question now, is there room? I mean, this is the problem. I mean, we have a lot of people who had future cruise credits. They had future tour credits. They had that are all lining up to get back to travel, as well as the new customers. Is there room in the business right now, or is it oversubscribed?
No, I don't think it's oversubscribed yet. Okay. Although I would say if anybody's listening to this that is a traveler, please get your booking in if you really want to go in the near term. Long term, it's the business looks great. There's more capacity in the cruise space. In 2023, we've got a lot of new builds coming out. So I think the supply will be there, the demand will be there, so we'll be at a nice point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we were hearing every single cruise line is now 100% back in operation.
Correct.
They were operating at lower capacities because of COVID, but are we still seeing some COVID cases? Yes. It's not the severe kind, fortunately, in the most cases, but people are getting less afraid of going on a cruise ship now, which if they were afraid.
Well, exactly. And then you look at the policies that the cruise lines are taking and changing. 17 and younger don't have to be vaccinated in some cases. That speaks to the fact that the cruise line, their medical directors, their safety directors, in conjunction with government authorities, are saying that's okay, because COVID is still. I mean, we're all aware that the positivity rate and the cases across the U.S. are they've been going up a little bit, but it's mild.
It's the Omicron or something worse. Unlike me, I had the classic COVID, but we won't go there.
Yeah, we don't want to wish that on anybody.
It wasn't fun. I was an early adopter, but that's another story. Now, talk about cruise looks really good, obviously, and what about land? And yes, we were talking about that last year as we're all coming back. All-inclusives and resorts in Mexico and the Caribbean were really strong. But I think what's happening, though, is that a lot of travel advisors who may have sold those in the past, if they were selling cruises, have discovered that and now are selling all-inclusive as well, and that's going to be even better, right?
Well, it is going to be better, and I think it's going to be better for that agency in the past, pre-pandemic, that was just focused on cruise. They now see another revenue stream. If you were focused just on cruise customers,
right.
Typical cruise customers travel once every 2 years. What were they doing in the off year? So they kind of figured out that, that revenue stream that they had every 2 years could be every year.
Yeah.
So I think from that perspective, agency owners have diversified, and they're in a very, very good position moving forward. But to answer your question, land looks really strong.
Right.
Europe bookings, hotels, price points are very, very high right now, but the strength of the dollar is also offsetting some of that. But we see Europe rebounding really, really quickly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about destinations. Everybody's expecting Europe to rebound even as early as this year, if it isn't already rebounding. Any other destinations that are still resonating? Obviously, still maybe Mexico, Caribbean, but
but I'd also point out all of those, James, are doing extremely well. But when we look at some of our surveys and what bookings we're seeing come in, Dubai, Egypt, really some of the exotic countries, we're seeing a huge resurgence in that business as they open up. Thailand, you're starting to see people want to travel and travel well.
No, absolutely. These destinations, I was just in Australia, obviously, just opened up, New Zealand opened up, and they're all actively promoting, and I think people want to get there. Do you think at this point, people are so there's so much pent-up demand for travel post-pandemic that is actually defeating concerns about other things, such as financial concerns, because obviously the economy doesn't look that great right now, and people, for the most part, the stock market's going down, inflation is high, we're seeing price increases across the board, but people so far seem to be immune. They want to travel regardless.
Yeah, we're in a bear market officially.
We are officially,
right?
As of
so
today.
We're officially there, and then if the R word comes into play, recession. I would just say we have never experienced a bear market or a potential recession in the fashion that we are. And what I mean by that is, you can go back to any recession that we've ever come into, travel had taken place all the way up to it and all the way through it.
Right.
What we have today is we have consumers that have literally sat on 2 years of money, disposable income. Yes, you take your money, you put it into your 401k, that continues to go there. But that money that you, at your household level, that discretionary income that you put away for vacation, nobody knew when the pandemic was going to end. So they kept putting their money away, putting the money away. We all thought it was going to last 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever it was.
Right.
But here we are 2 years later, and a lot of restrictions were in place. People decided to hold off. Yes, Europe, you can go, but I need to test to come home. Another barrier, and people said, I will wait until that's lifted. I think people for 2 years have been locked in their homes, very, very, with little opportunity to travel, a lot of restrictions. Most of it's been lifted now, so I think people are just going to travel. I don't see the barrier today that I would have seen in past recessions because people are sitting on that disposable income right now.
Now, everybody compares things to 2019, which was a great year before the pandemic. I'm hearing things, you think 2022 itself is going to be better than 19. Everybody says 23 is going to be better, obviously, than 19. Is 22 going to be a pretty good year?
Well, I think 22 is going to be a very good year. But, if you look at it by travel segment, land, theme parks, resorts, especially in the U.S. and Mexico and the Caribbean, we're going to have record-breaking years in 2022.
Right.
But you can't get to a record-breaking year in 2022 with the cruise lines. And it's simple, simple math. You only had 35% of the ships in the water, from a capacity standpoint in the first quarter. You had a little bit above 50 in the second quarter. Well, math just tells you can't have a record-breaking year. You can't get back to those 2019 levels in 2022.
Right.
I say all that to say 23 will be, it will exceed 22.
Well, you and I both end up meeting each other on cruise ships.
Yeah.
It seems like we were actually both I was on the Celebrity Beyond with you. So obviously the cruise lines keep building them or renovating them or whatever. So they keep putting more and more product in the market. I know MSC, Royal Caribbean,
Yes.
all those companies, Carnival, everyone does put up that. Now, it doesn't sound like they're going to stop. And that's going to mean great things for travel advisors because they got more product to sell.
Well, they do. And I would just say, all those companies that you mentioned, they're run by very, very smart people. And, smart people choose to invest their money wisely. They have to drive a return on their investment. And they're looking at it saying, we can build a ship for $1 billion. We know we're going to get an investment out of it. So, all positive indicators from my standpoint, but the investment they're making in themselves is also an investment in the retail travel distribution system. If we sell 70% of their product, it's really a $700 million investment in us. That's the way I look at it. So,
well, also, your parent company, Internova Travel Group, obviously has put a pretty big bet on the travel distribution system as it is today, right?
Well, they have, yeah. We're about 40% of all travel agents in one shape, form, or another are involved with ITG, Internova Travel Group.
Yeah, that's great. Now, anything else you'd like to say to our 100,000 travel advisors out there about Travel Leaders Group, Travel Leaders Network, and Internova?
Well, I would just, as we come out of the pandemic, there are some headwinds that we all see. We're all living at $5, plus gas.
Yeah.
Don't let that get you down in terms of wanting and continuing to sell travel.
Right.
People do have the money, they have the capacity to travel, and they have the willingness to travel. And after 2 years, I have never seen happier people in hotels, on cruise ships, on planes. Don't read the negative stories about the people that throw water on the plane and stuff like that. It's far and few between. Travel is coming back, and it's coming back strong, and people are excited to get with people again. So don't be afraid to call your past clients, ask them to make that booking and make it now, because ultimately supply is going to dry up. Not from them taking stuff out of the market. It's because it's going to be sold to somebody else. Absolutely.
Well, John, that's a great positive message to tell everyone out there about what the future holds for this year and next. I want to thank you. First of all, it's been great to be back here at Travel Leaders Network meeting. It feels like we were just here because we were just here. It was just less than the normal year.
Right.
We had a lovely meeting in Orlando, and now here we are just in the Denver area. And it's been great to see your team here and hearing all about the great programs that you're developing for all your travel advisors. Again, thank you very much.
I appreciate it, James. Thanks for having me.
I'm James Schillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.